a simple can of soup, a face of Marilyn Monroe repeated dozens of times. Common objects that anyone could find in a supermarket or on magazine covers. And yet today they are worth millions of dollars. How is that possible? How did one man convince the world that something apparently ordinary could become a symbol of value? The answer is not just talent. There is something much more complex behind it. Andy Warhol was not simply one of the most famous artists of the 20th century. He was a man who understood, decades in advance, a rule that now dominates the world of luxury, social media, and big companies. Value does not come only from what a product is, but from what it manages to represent in people's minds. While many artists were trying to create unique works, Warhol was building something much bigger. He was building an identity. While others were searching for inspiration, he was observing the market, advertising, and the power of images. And while the world saw him as an eccentric character with a silver wig, Andy Warhol was creating a system destined to change forever the relationship between art, money, and success. But behind that fame there was a very different story. A childhood marked by poverty. A constant fear of falling back into anonymity. An attack that changed his life. And a man willing to turn even his own image into something valuable. To understand who Andy Warhol really was, we need to stop looking at him only as an artist. We need to see him for what he truly became. One of the first great creators of a personal brand in modern history. And this is where the first real paradox begins. Today, millions of people try to build a personal brand on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. Andy Warhol was already doing it 60 years before the internet existed. He was not just selling artworks. He had understood that the most powerful product he could create was his own name. And that insight would change forever the way the world assigns value to things. If today there are influencers capable of turning their image into millions of euros, if luxury brands sell exclusivity more than simple products, and if a logo can be worth more than a factory, part of that mindset comes directly from Andy Warhol. Long before Instagram, long before creators, long before personal branding became one of the most important strategies in modern business. Warhol had already understood something essential. In the modern world, creating something is not enough. You need to build a system that can grow that value over time. And this is where his revolution begins. In the 1960s, while the art world was still tied to the image of the solitary artist working alone in a studio, Warhol did something completely different. He turned the creative process into a real production machine. He called it the factory. And the name itself was already a statement. A factory does not produce just one object. A factory produces ideas, products, and value continuously. Warhol applied this concept to art. He used assistants, collaborators, and repeatable techniques to create works that could reach a much wider audience than before. For many critics, this was heresy. According to them, art had to be rare, personal, and impossible to replicate. Warhol understood that repetition could become a strength. The more an image entered people's minds, the more recognizable it became. And the more recognizable it became, the more its value increased. Today we would call this process scalability. Warhol had already understood it decades earlier. But the real leap came when he realized that the art market does not work only through the quality of the artwork. It works through desire. People did not simply want a painting. They wanted to own something connected to culture, fame, and success. For this reason, he started creating commissioned portraits for entrepreneurs, celebrities, politicians, and members of the international elite. Those works were not just images. They were symbols of belonging. Being portrayed by Andy Warhol meant entering an exclusive world. Like buying today a rare watch, a limited edition Ferrari, or a work by an artist who has become a legend. The value was not in the materials used. The value was in the story that object represented. Warhol understood this dynamic perfectly. Every interview, every photograph, every public appearance with dark glasses and his iconic silver wig strengthened the myth around his figure. He was no longer just an artist producing works. He had become the center of an economic and cultural system. But to understand where this obsession with success, money, and control came from, we need to go back in time. To a child growing up in hardship, to a family with very few resources, and above all, to the constant fear of losing everything. On June 3, 1968, Andy Warhol was in his kingdom. The factory had become the most exclusive and unpredictable place in New York. Artists, musicians, actors, models, and entrepreneurs were constantly coming and going. The atmosphere felt free, creative, almost without rules. But that day, chaos turned into tragedy. A woman entered the building with a gun. Her name was Valerie Solanas. She was a radical writer, author of the controversial Scum Manifesto, who had developed deep resentment toward Warhol. She believed he had stolen a script from her and was trying to control her life. When she saw him in front of her, she did not hesitate. She fired 3 shots. One of the bullets passed through Warhol's chest, causing severe injuries and damage to his internal organs. His condition was critical. Doctors managed to save him with emergency surgery, but his body was never the same again. For the rest of his life, he had to wear a surgical corset. He lived with chronic pain. Every movement reminded him of that day. But the deepest wounds were not only physical. They were in his mind. When a person comes close to death, the way time is perceived changes. And when life has also included poverty, the way money is seen changes as well. From that moment on, Warhol began to protect his wealth, his image, and his work with almost obsessive attention. This was not just greed. It was the need to not lose what he had built. The eccentric man, seemingly detached and always surrounded by people, started to live with a stronger sense of vulnerability. He became more cautious, more controlled, more focused on protecting his world. Anyone who has built everything from very little knows how fragile success can be. Warhol started recording every expense. He kept receipts. He tracked income. He archived letters, photographs, newspaper clippings, and even seemingly insignificant objects in boxes he called time capsules. He filled hundreds of them. For some, this was a strange obsession. For others, a way to stop time, to preserve every fragment of his existence. His relationship with money also became a central part of his philosophy. He loved repeating a phrase that would become famous. Making money is art, working is art, and good business is the best art. This was not just a provocation. That was his way of seeing the world. Warhol felt no discomfort talking about money. On the contrary, while many artists pretended to despise it, he openly stated that financial success was an essential part of artistic success. A position that shocked the art world in the 1960s. Today, the idea feels incredibly modern, but there was another side to his personality. Colder, more distant. Many collaborators said he could observe people as if they were part of an experiment. He listened to them. He studied them. Then he turned those dynamics into art, photographs, or new projects. For some, he was a genius. For others, a man unable to form real connections. The truth was probably somewhere in between. Warhol had built a character so powerful that he ended up becoming trapped inside it. The silver wig, the dark glasses, the monotone voice, the cryptic answers. These were not just style choices. They were armor. Behind that perfectly constructed image was an insecure man, terrified of being forgotten and even more determined to protect what he had achieved. That contradiction is exactly what made him unique. Andy Warhol was not just trying to create immortal works. He was trying to make himself immortal. Looking at what still happens today in the art market, one question naturally arises. Did he succeed? To answer that, we need to look at the legacy he left behind. A legacy that continues to influence artists, entrepreneurs, influencers, and billionaires all over the world. At this point, the question becomes inevitable. Did Andy Warhol become rich because he was a great artist, or did he become a great artist because he understood how to create value? Most likely both. Looking at his career from a business perspective reveals a surprising truth. Warhol did not simply sell artworks. He built a system. The first principle was what today is called branding. When people hear names like Apple, Ferrari, or Rolex, the thought goes beyond a product. A lifestyle comes to mind, a status, an emotion. Warhol did exactly the same with his own name. His personal brand became an essential part of his work. Anyone who bought a Warhol was not just buying a canvas. They were buying a story, a symbol, a piece of contemporary culture. This is why his works still reach extraordinary prices at international auctions. The second principle was the perception of value. Warhol understood a fundamental rule of economics. The price of something does not depend only on the cost of materials. The price depends on the meaning people assign to that object. A canvas, a print. From a material point of view, the value can be limited. But when that same canvas carries the right signature, everything changes. The same principle drives the world of luxury. The product matters. The meaning behind it matters even more. The third principle was scalability. For centuries, art had been considered something unique and impossible to replicate. Warhol overturned this idea. He used silkscreen techniques to produce images in series, turning the creative process into a more efficient and repeatable system. Many critics accused him of industrializing art. He had actually understood a key principle of business. A system grows when it does not depend only on the work of a single person. The factory worked exactly like that. Collaborators, assistants, repeatable techniques, a creative machine capable of generating value continuously. The fourth principle was the power of relationships. Warhol did not spend time with famous people just to build an interesting social life. Every connection increased the strength of his brand. Musicians, actors, collectors, politicians, entrepreneurs. Every photo with them reinforced the idea that Andy Warhol was at the center of his time's culture. Today, this would be called networking. He had already turned it into a strategy decades earlier. But the most important lesson might be another one. People do not buy only what you create. People buy what you represent. This is why, decades after his death, he continues to influence the world. Every creator building a personal brand. Every entrepreneur investing in their image. Every company selling belonging before the product. All of them are applying, consciously or not, one of Andy Warhol's most powerful insights. Maybe his greatest work was not a Campbell Soup can, nor the face of Marilyn Monroe. His most important creation was proving that in the modern economy, value does not come only from what you create. Value comes from the story built around what you create. That is why Andy Warhol is not remembered only as one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. He is remembered as the man who turned art into a business. An artist who anticipated a world where the brand can be as valuable as the product. A world where attention has become the most valuable currency of all. And this is where the final paradox emerges. Andy Warhol spent his life turning ordinary objects into works of art. Today, the market is doing the exact opposite. The market turns his works into financial assets. Andy Warhol died on February 22, 1987, at just 58 years old, after complications from a surgical procedure that was supposed to be routine. But his death did not mark the end of his story. That moment marked the beginning of his legend. Today, his artworks are sold at the most important auction houses in the world for tens, and in some cases hundreds, of millions of dollars. Museums, collectors, and investors continue to compete for everything connected to his name. But the real question is different. What are we truly buying when we purchase an Andy Warhol? A canvas? Paint? A silkscreen print? Or are we buying something much bigger? An idea? Because this was the intuition that changed the world. Warhol understood one fundamental thing. Value does not come only from the object itself. Value comes from the meaning that people give to that object. And this is exactly how the world still works today. The greatest brands, the most powerful companies, influencers, celebrities, even financial markets, all of them in different ways follow the same rule. Anyone who can build a powerful story around something can completely transform its value. Maybe this is why Andy Warhol remains so relevant today. He did not only predict the future of art, he predicted the future of the attention economy. A world where the image becomes part of the product. A world where meaning can increase material value. A world where reputation can become one of the most important assets of all. In the end, his greatest work was not Marilyn Monroe, not Campbell Soup, not even The Factory. His greatest masterpiece was Andy Warhol himself, a man who transformed himself into a brand, and by doing so, changed forever the way the world assigns value to things. Because Andy Warhol's true masterpiece is not hanging on a wall. His true masterpiece is the system that still today transforms an image, a signature, and a story into something the world is willing to pay millions for. If you enjoy this type of content, let me know in the comments. Tell me where you are watching from, and write in the comments which stories or personalities you would like to see analyzed in future videos. Thank you for watching.